Der Eisendrache, a fan favourite map of the golden era of Call of Duty Zombies. Set in a snowy castle with 4 unique elemental bows, and one of the most iconic Easter eggs of all time. This featured Treyarch's first ever real attempt at a boss fight, and a shocking ending of blowing up the moon. And I'm here to teach you how to speedrun the Der Eisendrache Easter egg. This video will be much like my Shadows of Evil guide, which I'll link in the description if you want to watch it. However, I'm going to try and go into more depth with this tutorial. The current world record at the time of recording sits at 26:45 by myself, so the strats will be as up to date as that run. Before you get into game, you want to make sure that you have the correct Gobblegum loadout. You want to be using raindrops, perkaholic, nukes, anywhere but here, and extra credit. As always, the order of these gums in the loadout does not matter and will not affect your game. The reason we use extra credit instead of shopping free is for 2 reasons. 1, having money in the bank is very useful for when we have to hit gum a lot late in the run. And 2, it's very important that extra credit spawns a power up, allowing us to start the rocket test when we want. Those of you who saw my tricks video will know about this, and I'll go into a bit more detail about it later in the video. In terms of weapon kits, I don't recommend any set kits for this run, so use whatever attachments you like, although I will recommend having attachments on all of your weapons, since you'll end up using an array of different weapons during different runs. Finally, to run this, you want to load up a solo game of Der Eisendrache or a ranked match in a private game. This will allow you to only do 1 bow for the keeper step instead of all 4. One more thing before we get into the rest of this tutorial, and a massive shout out to Scrappy for spending so long making this amazing tool. But as of this week, the initial release of the Black Ops 3 practice tool is out. Learning how to speedrun can always be quite daunting, and with the presence of RNG, it can make doing so extremely tedious and difficult to do. This tool will be everything that you as an aspiring speedrunner will need to learn the game as fast as possible. With this tool, you can enable practice patches and segment patches at the click of a button to help you learn each part of the speedrun without having to go through the RNG resets. The practice patches are obviously the main feature of this tool, but it also does so much more, which I'll list off now. It will act as any other mod menu, allowing you to give yourself guns, god mode, infinite ammo, disable zombie spawns, etc. It's things like that any other mod menu can do. You can automatically complete Easter egg steps. This feature only has SOE at the moment, however other maps will be included in future releases. It contains useful tools such as the SOE code guide and the GK valve solver, and also a zombie calculator. Now, I highly recommend that you use this tool as someone trying to not just learn the game, but also any new map. Instructions on how to use this will be in the description and also in my Discord, and I'll put a link to this and Scrappy's channel in the description. You can also find the download in my Discord down below, and any future releases will also be in my Discord, so make sure that you keep an eye on it for any updates. If you need help, please do not hesitate to ask in my Discord. There's a help channel there that you can ask me or any of my admins or Scrappy himself, so please don't hesitate to ask. And without further ado, let's get into the rest of this tutorial. Now that we've loaded into the game, the first thing you're going to want to do is reset to get Richtofen as your character. Now, Richtofen has a quote that will play right before the cutscene at the end of the Easter egg that you could skip only if you are playing as Richtofen. Now, this saves around 10 seconds, so if you're just wanting to play runs out, then this doesn't really matter, so just play as any character. To enable fast restarts on PC, I've linked a video in the description on a quick tutorial on how to do so. Next, we want to hit the gumball machine and turn on the landing pad. Get your raindrops from the gun machine and run up to quick revive, as we'll be starting our dragons at church. Nuke the round at 18.5 seconds or 19 seconds to be safe, and you will always end the round. This is because this is a time that the last zombie will always spawn on round 1. This idea also works with all rounds, and I'll go into more depth with it when we get to the keeper step, as it becomes quite important then. Now that we're at the church and ready to feed our dragons, the first thing that I want to say is that spawn manipulations do not exist on this map. They're only present on the base maps of the game, so that's Shadows of Evil and the Giant, even though we only really use them on Shadows of Evil. Don't ask me why this is the case, it's just kind of the way the game was coded. But this means that how fast our zombie spawns are going to be is going to be fully up to RNG. But anyways, while we wait for the zombies to come in, pop your second raindrops while obviously avoiding the nuke and the carpenter, and start hitting the box. We're looking for the XM53 rocket launcher, as this will one-shot the keeper boss at the end. And if you don't get it, keep your MR6, that's your starting pistol, as this is the second best thing against the boss. Now that's out of the way, we can look at where we want to be killing zombies to feed the dragons, and I'll do this with all 3 dragons. The red box highlights the entire area where killing a zombie will cause the dragon to eat the zombie. The green box is where, if possible, we want to be killing our zombies, as this will provide the fastest eating animation for the dragon. Just to clarify, it takes 8 kills to feed a dragon, so make sure that you are counting for all 3 dragons. After you've killed the last zombie, run upstairs and turn on power, and run to the double tap dragon, opening both of the drop downs and the door to Sam's room. We do this to give ourselves faster spawns. For the second dragon, the red area once again marks where killing a zombie will cause the dragon to eat the zombie. The green areas mark where we want to be killing for the fastest animation. The fastest spawn is this window right here. If a zombie is halfway climbing through this window, killing it will count as a kill for the dragon. The only other thing we want to be doing here is hitting the gum either once or twice until we get anywhere but here. If I get nuked, I like to pop them at the door to the undercroft after my 5th kill before hitting gum again. That way they will last the entire dragon. Kill your 8 zombies and continue to the final dragon after ending round. For the final dragon, there's only 2 things that we need to do. Feed the dragon and, depending on your confidence level, turn on the anti-grav as fast as possible. Now, the reason I say depending on your confidence level is because if you aren't very good at shooting your 3 wooden bonfires with the Wrath of the Ancients, you will be too slow to make the anti-grav cycle. However, if you are confident at hitting these 3 bonfires in good time, you will always make the anti-grav cycle after shooting your 3 bonfires to do the war room. If you aren't confident with hitting the 3 bonfires in good time, then leave a pad off, and by the time that you come down to the war run, all you have to do is turn on the last pad and you can do the war run as normal. Now, once again, I'll mark a red area where killing a zombie will force the dragon to eat. I'll also mark another green area where killing a zombie will force the fastest eating animation from the dragon. So, as always, kill your 8 zombies, grab your bow, and we'll proceed to start the lightning bow. Historically, people have always found shooting these bonfires pretty hard. Now, the way that I learned it is by loading a mod and finding a lineup that will always work. I always stand and aim at the same spot every single game to hit this far bonfire. Now, this is my way of doing it, and you might find a way that suits you better. I mean, everyone's different, so, just play around with it, see what works for you, or you can try and mimic what I'm doing. You can find mod menus on the Steam Workshop to quickly get a bow and practice this. This clip will show the route for shooting the bonfires. Hopefully, we have round 5 dogs. This is faster because we always get a dog round on either round 5 or round 6. Round 5 dogs means that we can end the round while shooting our bonfires instead of later, which will slow us down. If it is round 5 dogs, end the round while shooting the bonfires, hitting the death ray to help kill the dogs, and also spawning the rag piece that we can possibly get later. If it's round 5 zombies, try not to kill anything as we'll use this round to fill our urns later. Now, for world record runs, 5 dogs is practically required, as it's basically a 30-second time loss. However, for practice, there's no reason not to play round 6 dogs out. The best recorded time with round 6 dogs is only 17 seconds off the world record, so you can still get good times with this. After shooting the bonfires, go and do your war run. If you've already turned on all the pads and have hit your bonfires in good time, you should always make this anti-grav cycle. If not, then just turn on the remaining pad if you need to and continue with the war run. Now, jumping off of the wall at angles will give you a burst of speed through the air, so try and utilize this if you're comfortable. If not, then just run around the wall as you normally would and do it that way. Finish the war run, and we're going to take the teleporter to the rocket test. When we teleport for the first time, we enable the ability to start the rocket test. The way the rocket test works is as follows. 1 minute after the first teleport in the game, any power-up drop, either by random, gobblegum, or even void bow drops or widow's wine drops, will force the rocket test to start. It can also go off at any random time during this, but the drops will guarantee it to start. After the rocket goes off for the first time, the timer then changes from 1 minute to 2 minutes 45. The timings for the rocket test are not too important to note, however there are situations that given perfect wisps, we will be too fast for the rocket test to start post back in time 1. That is if the rocket had gone off late for the first time. This information is not essentially needed when you are starting off. It's best to be used for improvement and more situational uses. When we get out of the TP, hit gun for ABH if we've not got it already and turn on the landing pad. Fill the urn and shoot the bonfire. You may have to hit gun twice for ABH here, but that is normal. It's also worth noting that each urn takes 5 zombies to fill it up. After shooting the bonfire, use ABH. We want to go to the double tap urn. The only situations that will go to the clock tower urn is if we get either one of these two ABHs. After filling the double tap urn, you can do one of two things. Shoot the far bonfire with that urn and do the 2-in-1 strat. In short, you could shoot the arrow to the far bonfire and get the electric back on the arrow before the other arrow hits the bonfire, so that you can take the new arrow to the other bonfire. Now you can do that, or you can take the electricity and jump to the clock tower, shooting the bonfire there ready to fill the bonfire. The spawn zone at the clock tower is extremely finicky. Leaving the clock tower through either door will immediately despawn any zombie through the other door. So try not to leave the clock tower before ending the round, as I perceive the round end to be more important than getting the upgraded arrow. It's also important to attempt to play for a power up at this urn if possible. Do this by setting off any Widow's grenades that you have, or by knifing zombies to web them up and get Widow's power up. Getting a drop will make the rocket go off and ensure that you are not too fast for the rocket test after the first back in time sequence as mentioned before. End the round and make sure all bonfires are shot and collect your lightning arrow. If you have ABH available, use it after grabbing the upgraded arrow and upgrade the bow. A small tip is to shoot the pyramid here, as the splash damage does not go further than the zone where killing zombies does not count as a soul. Once you have 20 kills, go and shoot the teleporter to start the Wisp before putting in the Wrath of the Ancients to the upgraded bow. If you upgrade the bow before starting the Wisps, you can always go and get a new Wrath of the Ancients and start it then, although this is a lot slower. If you've watched my streams or my videos, you might have heard about Wisp patterns. I'll explain how they work now. Wisps will always come in a set of 4, being that you shoot 4 Wisps to enable the back in time sequence. The first Wisp of a set is always random. Every other Wisp within the set is dependent on the last Wisp that you shot, and is always a 50-50 between the 2 closest available Wisp locations from the last one that you shot. For example, if your first Wisp location was at power, then the next one will be at either globe or radio. Let's say it was at globe next, the next Wisp will either be at radio or clock, and so on. These 50-50s are generally pretty obvious, however there are some strange ones. You can learn these 50-50s by just playing and practicing, and you'll start to notice which Wisps go where and what patterns there are. However, this image right here can help you learn which Wisps go where. For those of you who want to do co-op speedruns, the same method of Wisps apply. However, for each player that you add, another Wisp is added to the mix. So for a 2-player run, it's no longer a 50-50 between 2 Wisps, it's now a 1 in 3 chance between 3 Wisps, and so on. The only other thing that we need to be doing whilst doing our Wisps is making sure that we have a gobble gum that spawns a power up on us. We can get this gum in between Wisp spawning. We will use this gum to start the rocket test after we teleport. Shoot your Wisp and go to the Undercroft and teleport, grabbing the fuses, the canister, and the save code as usual. When we come back from the back in time sequence, spawn a drop and do the rocket test sequence to get the rag part. Do not worry about killing the Panzer to get his part, as he will die to the rocket, and we can also get his part later on during the keeper step. End the round and cycle your gums during the rocket test sequence. We want to be getting ABH back if possible. If you have ended the round at a good time, you should be able to get about 5 hits on the gun machine. After you've got the rag piece, ABH back to the map and we'll start the second Wisp sequence. We're now into the second half of the speedrun, and it's where, in my opinion, you'll find the better and more experienced players pull away from the newer players with faster times, and a lot of this can come down to experience with this part of the speedrun. I'll try my best to explain how to do this section as fast as possible, but keep in mind that every game will be different, as the way you play depends on a lot of factors, such as where your Wisps are, and possible Wisps are, and also your ABH locations. In short, what we want to be doing is completing the steps to call Dempsey down with the death ray. So putting in the vault code and doing Simon Says at the same time as shooting all the Wisps for the second TP. After we ABH on the rocket test, our first goal will be to get to the death ray, put in the fuses and flip the switch to put in the code to the vault, all whilst checking any Wisp locations on your way there. It's important to note from earlier that the first Wisp of the second set of Wisps is completely independent of your first set of Wisps, meaning that the first Wisp you will shoot here can be any of the 8 locations. After putting in the code, make your way down to the vault and grab the pieces. Before you go down to grab the pieces, make sure that you have at least 1 Wisp shot and possibly 2 or 3 if you don't have to go out of your way to shoot it. The best way to think about this part is doing all the Simon Says steps in between the Wisp spawns, so that you're never waiting around for anything. After grabbing the Death Ray pieces, put them in and flip the switch again and jump over to the rocket test. If you can shoot a Wisp during this, then do so. Otherwise, you can play for a good ABH to take you to the Wisp location. Do not be scared of the Wisp timing out, as you can do almost 2 full Simon Says sequences before it times out. Finish the first Simon Says and then ABH back to the map. The first Simon Says sequence is 7 hits, while the second one is 8. Shoot the last Wisp if you haven't already, and finish the second Simon Says, while thinning the round down to 1 zombie left. Call down Dempsey via the Death Ray and jump over to the rocket test to TP from there. If you want to play with more risk, kill the zombie as you jump over to end the round. The round should flip in midair, giving you enough time to make it to the console in the TP room to grab the stone tablet. End the round too early and you'll still be able to TP, but you will not be able to open the case with the tablet in. If you're playing to practice and get more runs, it might be worth holding the round until you get back from the second TP sequence. This will make the start of the keeper easier but a little bit slower. The other risk of killing the zombie before the TP is that you can spawn a drop and set the rocket off. This is a very small chance, but it can happen and it will kill your run, since you won't be able to TP. After you get back from the TP sequence, take the well, grab the golden rod, or the key as I call it, and start the keeper step. Before I get into the actual keeper step, I'll explain how round times work, as I mentioned earlier in the video. In short, the last zombie of the round will always spawn in at a specific time if there have been 1, no despawns, and 2, you haven't hit the horde cap of 24 zombies on the map at once. This means that during the keeper step, you can comfortably nuke at the exact time that the final zombie spawns in, end the round, and subsequently move the keeper onto its next location. These round times will not only make sure that you are playing as fast as possible, but will also make sure that you're not losing time to nuking early. It's also important to note that the round time for each round starts as soon as you flip the round and see survive on screen with XP. I'll link a spreadsheet with every single round time in the description. Once spawned, the keeper will go to any of the 4 locations, and he can move to any location regardless of where he currently is. Obviously, he has to go to 1 of each, and he'll never go back to where he's already been. This means that he could go in a nice circle around each location, or decide to go cross-map multiple times, such as going from double tap to courtyard, etc. You need to kill 20 zombies in order for the keeper to move after a round flip. The best way of counting these kills is by looking at your kill count and simply waiting until you have 20 kills. Bear in mind that any dog kills will show as +1 on your kills, but do not count as a kill for the keeper itself. There are 2 things that you need to worry about during the keeper. 1, your gumball cycle, and 2, whether or not the zombies you are killing are in range of the keeper. For your gun cycle, you're looking to use nukes and raindrops to quickly end rounds during keeper, but you also want to make sure that you can get raindrops back for the boss fight. Cycle anything you don't need out of your cycle if you know you can, and try your best to guarantee your raindrops before the boss fight. In terms of ranges for the keeper, I'll go through them now in the same way that I did with the dragons at the start. This time, it'll just be 1 big green area, as where you kill a zombie doesn't matter as long as it's in range for the keeper. This is the kill area for power. This is to kill area for double tap. This is to kill area for mule kick. And this is to kill area for courtyard. Now you know the ranges, I'll shoot out a few tips to help make a faster keeper segment. If you are at double tap and the keeper is yet to go to mule kick, open the spawn door to give him a faster route there. If you still need the death ray rag part, turn on the death ray in between rounds and travel time. The rag part stays there for a long time, so you can just pick it up later. You can tell where the keeper is going based on his movements, like so. If he's going to mule kick first or from power, he will hug the left wall, otherwise he will hug the right to go to courtyard. If he is at double tap, he will go up this wall to go to power, or this drop down to go to courtyard. You'll learn these movements and movements like this as you play more runs out. One final thing to make sure that you have done during the keeper step is making sure that you have the Ragnarok part from the Panzer. You'll always get a Panzer on your 4th keeper, so make sure that you get the Ragnarok part from this Panzer if you haven't already, as you won't have another chance to get one. The boss fight is somewhat simple, and I don't believe it needs much explanation. Make sure that you have raindrops and either the MR6 Pack-a-Punched or the XM53 Pack-a-Punched, the XM53 being the better of these two. The Keeper will do 3 phases of attacks, with Panzers after the first and second phase. This is what we'll use our raindrops for, as the Death Machine absolutely destroys the Panzers. The Panzers will only ever spawn in 2 at a time, and there can only be a maximum of 2 on the map at one time. The first set of Panzers will have 3, whereas the second set of Panzers will have 4. Again, use the Death Machine from the raindrops to kill them quickly. In terms of playing the actual phases of the boss fight, you can quite literally just sit next to a pillar and shoot the lightning bow at your feet, and you'll be completely safe. If the Keeper ever does a dog attack, kill the dogs as quickly as possible. This is his slowest attack that he can do, and he will not progress through the fight until the dogs are dead. If you watch the Keeper, he will look like this before doing the dog attack, and will also make a howling noise. In terms of attacking and killing the boss quickly, if you have the XM53, simply shoot him and he'll get 1 shot. With the MR6, quickly shoot him with alternating fire like so. His health is actually random, so there will be times where 1 clip of the MR6s will kill him, but sometimes it will take up to 3 clips. After the Keeper is dead, you will spawn back on the map. Where you spawn is dependent on your character. Richthofen, who we should be playing as, will spawn directly in front of the summoning key. Nikolai spawns underneath the dragon, Dempsey spawns opposite Richthofen on the other side of the pyramid, and Takio spawns next to the buildable bench. Before the game white screens you to teleport back to the map, shoot a charged lightning bow shot on the floor. When you no longer hear the bow shot, move forwards, assuming you are Richthofen, during the white screen, and spam your interact key. You can interact and move during the white screen, so you can grab the summoning key as early as possible. Place the key on the consoles near the death ray, and listen to Gruff's quotes. Right before the rockets hit the moon, Gruff will shout, "Just stop nothing!" You stop nothing, like so. When you hear this, down yourself, and you will skip your character's quote and get to the cutscene faster. If you are not playing as Richthofen, his quote will play over the loudspeakers regardless of your character. Excluding Richthofen himself, the only way to skip this is by playing as Richthofen and downing as explained. This is why we play as Richthofen in order to get the cutscene quicker. And that's how to speedrun the Eisendrache Easter egg. This was a longer and more in-depth guide compared to the Shadows of Evil one. Mechanics such as round times can be attributed to any map on the game, including SOE, so you can use these to help with your times on every single map. Let me know if you want me to do more of these. I do plan on doing one for every single map, and hopefully I'll be grinding those out soon, so keep on the lookout for that. Join my Discord if you have any questions. There are tons of resources that you can use there to help you, and that is all from me. Take care, have a nice day, and see you in the next one.